So take a minute to meet me here, coming onto all fours, wagging your hips from side to side. We're going to come into down dog together, curling the toes under and lifting the hips up towards the sky. Start to pedal the feet out. This may be your first down dog of the day, or maybe you're binging on practice snacks today in these bite-sized routines, but wherever we're at, let's just give ourselves what we need. So once you feel like you've taken the hamstrings out of the wrapper, you can settle into a more still version of downward facing dog, or just keep it moving. Good, and then on an inhale, let's lift the heels up, press the palms into the floor, and then start to shift forward by tucking the tail under and rolling through into a plank position. Now this plank is a little bit different because we're going to keep our tuck and get used to just sinking the floating ribs into our bodies. Let's just imprint that sensation because we're going to revisit it a lot in this snack. Exhale, drop your knees to the floor. And then we'll reposition our hands so that they're stacked under the shoulders. On an inhale, you're going to extend that right leg behind you. Recoil the tail like we just did in plank and raise the floating ribs. And you'll start to feel this activation of your right hamstring. The point here is we're trying to build strength in that muscle group. So really just feel that sense of hugging. Lift the leg just until you feel kind of max range of motion right there. And then you're going to turn the hip joint out. So think of either pointing your inner heel down towards the floor or opening your toes to the sidewall. And keep tracking that leg straight behind you. And raise it up to the point where you start to feel your outer rotators working, your glute firing. And we're going to hold it here for 3, 2, come up to full expression a little higher, 1, and then rotate back to neutral and set it down. And we're going to sit back, roll to the left side, roll to the right side. Think of like drapery panels hanging over one side of the hip and then the other. So yes, I am comparing our buttocks to curtains. That's what I'm doing. And then inhale, we'll come back to all fours. Exhale, soften something, release any tension. Inhale to bring that left leg up. So the leg is parallel to start, and then we're going to ask the tailbone to point towards the back heel. Gently raise the floating ribs in, and then you'll start to feel that hamstring engaging, building some tone there. Time and tone. And then we're going to get into that outer hip, so let's pivot. Start to work those muscles of the outer hip, externally rotating the hip. And then as we raise that leg up just a millimeter, you might feel the glute also engaging. There's a whole symphony of activity going on in this leg. Quiet strength, that's what this is. It may not look like much to somebody observing it, but we know different. And then we're going to take those toes down and reset the leg. Again, sitting the hips over the heels. Drape your buttocks over to one side and just let them drip over to the other side. Rolling through the foot, opening things up there. And then coming back, second set. Inhale, right leg comes up. Exhale, this time we're going to bend the knee. Coil the tail under, lift the floating ribs, and flex the foot. And we're just going to play here. It's not about getting the leg way up high, it's about keeping it parallel and firing that hamstring. On your next exhalation, let's open it up to the side. Keep lifting it. Really working the glute here. Think of drawing that knee towards the wall behind you. Good, and then back to neutral. Really fold the tail under for 3, 2, and 1. Release it back. And we're going to quickly step forward. And just coming forward and back a little bit. On an inhale, let's lengthen the belly flesh up and over the thigh and just sort of super glue it to the front leg. And we're going to create these little circles here. You're going to let the pelvis come along for the ride. Nothing has to be stagnant. Allowing your shoulders to just move and soften. Trying to take the restriction. Don't feel like you need to be overly contained. We're just starting to feel this relationship between strengthening the hamstring and then releasing it back into stretch here. So this is where I start to get a little tight. Everyone's going to look different, but we'll all feel the same. It's that point where it starts to feel like tight bands back here. I always say, like, my hamstrings, I have to take them out of the wrapper every day and work with them. So we're going to start to press down into this front heel, drag it back, really start to engage with this, again, the contraction of the muscle for 3, 2, and 1. Now soften, come forward, push to come up. It's coming into a low lunge here. And we'll take our arms down to the floor. Let's bend that back knee. If you can, you're going to reach around and maybe grab for the opposite heel. And instead of grabbing the foot, you're going to just push the foot into the palm of the hand or the fingertips. And again, we're working that hamstring in the back, holding it for 3, 2, 1. Release that down. And then we'll slowly find our way back to downward dog. Ooh, the legs might start to feel differently as we pedal them, releasing that work that we've been doing. Just relaxing any tension in the neck. Inhale, shifting forward, coming down to the knees. And switching sides. Inhale to take the left leg up. Exhale, let's coil the tail under, lift the ribs. We'll bend that knee. And again, working the hamstring. And it doesn't have to be such a strong contraction, but we're definitely isolating that muscle. And then from here, we're going to externally rotate. So imagine like the dog's leg up on a fire hydrant, basically. And start to move that knee up and back. You'll start to lift it a little higher as 1. Breathing here for 3, 2, and 1. Coming back to neutral. Re-tucking the tail. Notice how that gets more into the hamstring. And then coming into a neutral spine. And then exhale, we'll release that leg down. Step it forward. Just coming back and forth for a few little moments here. Now we're going to really consciously inhale to lengthen the belly flesh over the thigh. And then exhale to come back. So keeping this relationship here, these halves coming together, and just rolling through the foot, coming forward and back, switching directions, allowing the pelvis to move freely, the shoulders to be loose, the jaw to be loose. And then exhale, it'll start to come back into a half split. And again, just noticing with these gentle, soft movements, never forcing. We're just going to the beginning of stretch. Again, everybody is going to look different, but we're going to feel the same. We're just pausing there. Start to hug the heel in towards the floor. Maybe pull the mat back and notice where you feel it. And we're going to try to stay in the belly of the muscle at all times. So you never want to feel like you're working too closely to any particular joint, but let's try to really focus the effort in the middle of this muscle here. And then exhale to soften and slowly come forward, pressing into the floor, come up. Just taking a lunge here. And now switching sides, we're gonna see if we can bend that right knee. Place the right hand underneath the right shoulder. Take the left hand up and over to the outer aspect of that foot. If it doesn't even reach yet, that's okay. You're moving the right foot towards meeting the palm of the left hand. Breathing here for 3, 2, 1. Softly release. And bringing that back. Let's place the hands at the top of the mat and find our way back to down dog. Let's just see how the hamstrings are feeling. Oh yeah. And then we're going to come to a nice comfortable seat. Extend the legs out long. Just completely softening the legs, relaxing the legs. We're going to finish this with a passive stretch. Yeah, this should feel good. So, on an inhale, we'll find a nice long spine. And an exhale, we'll slowly come over. You can gently turn the palms to face up. And then right when you feel resistance, wherever you're hinging from, the back can be in flexion, you can be rounding it gently. We'll just release the weight of the head forward. And another option, if you have blocks, you don't need them, but if you have them, you want to place the block just where the head naturally meets in gravity and just to create that little bit of support. It'll help kind of let the nervous system know that you're safe and let those muscle fibers just open up that much more easily. So I'm gonna see if this works for me. The brow bone is just supported by the block. If you're not working with a block, it'll look like this, just sort of hanging in space. And start to tune into your breathing, letting the exhalation become this reminder to release any holding pattern in the body. And the longer we stay, the more these little holds start to reveal themselves as they let go. And staying here for another few breath cycles. If you find that you are deepening into the pose over time, you can just start to observe again this gentle progression that you might be making. millimeter at a time. If you're working with the block, you can adjust the block to a different height as you need. Sometimes it's higher. It's a very advanced practitioner that recognizes when they've taken something too far, and so they back out a little bit. Just say, oh, maybe this is what I need right now. So coming up a little higher, building time in the pose. Your last couple of breaths, just invite any release of tension. And then finally let go of any idea of how your hamstrings behave. Don't see them as tight or loose, but just become more curious about their capacity and potential. And then on an inhale, start to slowly pull the navel back over the hips, start to stack the vertebrae, head stacks on shoulders, and circle the feet. Take a minute to come into a cross-legged position. And then we decide. We decide if we are in the mood for another snack, or maybe we go on to the next activity. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe so that you get notifications when new ones are coming. I'll see you at the next snack. Enjoy those hamstrings.